something that they need to be captured. They think needs to be addressed before we go on to something else. So while you're thinking of that, I wanted to just, can you see my screen very well? Can you see my screen very well?
Yeah.
Okay. I can hear Nico. What about you? Can you see my screen very well?
Yes.
Okay. So there's something that we didn't capture. I noticed that we did not capture it, and it's about compound statements. For instance, you can also have this uh, in, in one statement, in one line. So this is called a compound statement. And then you can just print XYZ. Okay, still valid. It's still valid. You're still going to get with clear console. You are still going to get the correct answer. So you get 1, 2, 3. Even if the other one is single statement, we hate typing. So if you're having a problem, z is equal to z, for instance, z is equal to 23. And this is a single statement, and I wanted just to bring this to attention, okay? And so we can, so if you just comment this out, yeah, can you see my screen very well? Let me just remove this. Can you see my screen very well? Anybody who's not seeing my screen? Okay, because I'm not paying attention to the screen. Okay, I can see. Okay, we are good. You're seeing my screen very well. So that is just about, this is single statement. And it also applies to, for instance, it applies to strings. So it applies to strings as well, okay? Now, I came up with, I hope that you've understood. I'm going so fast because I don't want to eat into Bobby's time. There's also one thing that I wanted us to know, like for instance, okay, for instance, let's, we can determine what type of data is this. Is it a string? Is it a float? Or is it, an integer? So what we just do, you just print here type, you put here type, and then you put this in here. Let me just see. Okay, let me just do Z. Z4. So print, print. So print, right? Z. So when I print type Z over here, so we see this is a list. As you can see, this is a list and it's a class. So I will not explain to you what this means, but this is a convention in object-oriented programming, okay? Whereby we'll talk about objects, we'll talk about classes. Yeah, we'll talk about, there's some noise. I don't know where it's coming from. Let me check. Yeah, okay. So what I'm saying, so don't worry about all this. This is just the directory where we are saving this seed.py file. And so what I'm interested in is this one. So it's spitting out for us this line, and it's just telling us this, the content in here is a list. Okay, and you know that a list is an ordered collection of elements. It's an ordered collection of elements as previously taught, if you remember that. So if I ask you what data type is this, please, what type of data type is this? What do you think it's going to print out for me? Please answer. Just unmute if you have the answer. What data type is this?
Integers.
Brian says integers. Anybody else? Tiffany, yes. Class. Tiffany says a class. Another person?
List.
Catherine says it's a list. Catherine, you're saying it's a list?
Yes.
No, it's not a list. It's not any other person. It's a tuple. Nicholas Maita says a tuple. Anybody else?
An integer.
An integer. Rebecca or Samson, I think. An integer. Anybody else? So let's find out who got it. Okay, let's find out who got it.
Integer actually.
What is somebody saying?
I also think it's an integer.
Rebecca says an integer. Okay. Samson, are you two? Are you two?
No, it's just me.
Okay, Samson. Okay, I thought you were two people joining with the same account. Okay.
No. It's just me.
Okay, fine. No issue. So let me print it out. So when I print out, to see it's a tuple, okay? So you need to revise on those. You soon encounter a lot of that. Yeah, and yes, so it's a tuple, as you can see here. Tiffany, it's not a class. It's a class of a type of tuple, okay? The data type, the data in here is a tuple. And you can see this is how we instantiate a tuple. This is the constructor. This is the constructor for a tuple. Okay, this is just an empty tuple, and this is the tuple. And if I change this? Somebody, let me just change it. Okay, so what is this? What do you think Z will be right now? What class is this? What data type is this? Please raise it up. I have 2 minutes. Just try. You can try. There's no...
List.
Yes. Jacinta say a set. Another person. Another person, do you want to try? All right, so this is just how we construct or we instantiate a tuple, a set. So let's see if Jessica got it, right? So we see it's a set, okay? Good. Yeah, so I wanted to brush over that very quickly. Another thing, very, very fast, that has come to my attention. I know that we like to be led by certain TLs, or we prefer just grouping up, banding up like friends and stuff like that, which is not a bad thing. However, for the sake of gender balance, I'll keep on swapping you. So if I swap you, I remove you from one group to another, please don't feel bad. There's no bias. You know, I know once you are in a group, you start getting used to each other and you want to stick there. By the way, when you come to software engineering, it's about collaboration. So you will collaborate with people you don't see. You don't see their faces, you just have their accounts. So start getting used to people who are not your friends, okay? So you'll be collaborating a lot when you're using Git. Git and GitHub, there's a lot of collaboration that you learn. and you'll collaborate with people you don't know. So please take note. We don't. There's nothing wrong with moving you from one place to another. I'm just trying to strike a balance so that we don't have ladies, in one group and men in one group. I just want people to be, and I also want you to mingle. And as time goes by, if I find that there's weaknesses in a certain group, we might remove you from that group and put you in a group that looks stronger, so that you can benefit from the synergy within that group. Okay? Is that okay? Can I get thumbs up
very
if
okay.
you are? Okay, good stuff. Yara says that's okay. All right, it seems you are all okay with that. Okay, so we'll be swapping you if need be, but I'll try to ensure that we don't do that a lot, because also we don't want to destabilize your learning. It's just a study buddy sort of a group, sort of a situation. We just want you to study within with other people, so you gain from their experience. I like what the Titans are doing. The Titans are really okay. It's just that you're not privy to what they're doing, but the Titans are really vibrant, and they have come up with a way of ensuring that they code. I can't remember. I don't know whether it is Nico. Is it every day? Though I try to discourage every day. You code together,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, we have a plan of doing a daily challenge whereby each and everyone in our group will post a line of code that he managed to study or to go through each day.
Yeah, something, but in the line of what we've taught, so that you don't go ahead. Okay, not you are allowed to go ahead, but so that you don't get confused. That's I think the word. So you can adopt that if you want. So what they are doing is you come up, and we used to do it with the older group. You come up with you every time we meet in a class like this, one or two people come up and then they explain to us. Let me hook my charger, please. And then they explain to us. Oh, where is it? Come on. Okay, I'll hook it up in a few. Okay, so one or two people, they come and then explain to us what they've learned, and it could be just maybe 2 or 3 lines of code. Like you take 1 minute to explain to us, oh, this is what I've learned. And one thing that really this helps you with is that it builds your muscle memory. You keep on becoming good. You keep on becoming good in coding and any other thing that you will learn. So, and that's what we've been doing with the previous class. Anything that they've learned, they come and everybody comes and tells people that, oh, this is what I've learned, and we give an opportunity so that also you start developing you start finding out your area. Are you good in teaching? You can also start learning how you can teach. You just learn the way we do it, the way we deliver it, and then you pick it up from us, and also you just explain the way we do it. So we give you 1 minute to shine. So we'll be doing that every other time we meet, okay? And I encourage that to happen within the teams. All right, so let's now dive into GitHub. I love talking about GitHub or Git, and I mean all that GitHub, Git repos, and all that. So Bobby, please start your lesson. I hope you are recording, Bobby, as well. Or Benjamin, you're recording. Bobby, carry on, please. Bobby, are you there? Benjamin, is Bobby around?
Yes, he's around. We're just sorting something. Then just 1 minute. He's joining.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, he's here now.
Okay. Bobby, can you share now?
Yes. Hello and good evening to you all.
Good evening.
Good evening. Today we are going to be covering GitHub and version controls. I was supposed to do a small recap on version control before we proceed into the practical parts of today's lesson. So I believe we had covered what version control is, and this uh, this version control is important for us to understand or know, as our facilitator said, that when coding, we are going to be working with teams a lot. And if you look at job descriptions in relation to coding, you will find that most of them, they require you to have some proficiency in working with teams or collaborating with teams, and to some degree, some proficiency in version controls. So it is important to understand these tools, GitHub and the rest, so to be able to help you manage the different versions of code and to collaborate with other developers. So what we had covered is version control systems and tools that help software teams to manage the changes in their source code over time. So these are the systems and tools that help you to track your code from where you're beginning, what you're adding, what you're removing, what you're changing, and all of that over time as you're working on a project together. So these version control tools helps us to keep track of the modifications that we have done on our code, our repository over time as we go on. And they are important because they give us the collaborative purpose, so we are able to collaborate with others as we are working on our code with the different teams, either front end, back end, or with different people. Let's say it's a project we are working with the whole class. You are all able to contribute because of this version control. So that is not just not like the traditional way of after I've made change, I send it to you as a file, you download. Now you have to delete the old file. Now with version control, it enables you to collaborate easily. You're also able to track changes and trace those changes. So if a change was made by person X, you're able to know person X did this and this and this on the files, or he or they added new files, they deleted some files. You're able also to backup and restore previous versions of your code through these version control systems. So by use of this version control, for instance, having your repository on GitHub with your code and tracking it using the version control systems, in case anything happens to your machine and you get a new machine or you fix your machine and you need the code up to where you had reached, you can go back to your GitHub and restore the previous version of your code or track the changes you had made up to where you had reached. There's also continuous integration and continuous deployment that is part of advanced Git. We'll get into that much later on, but it's basically about the code that you're working on and the code in production. So for instance, we have several apps on our phone. Let's say WhatsApp. WhatsApp is already deployed, so we are currently using WhatsApp, but over time we have to update them continuously. So for them to be able to achieve that, they are using the part of version control called continuous integration and continuous deployment, whereby you're able to use the app as they continue working on the code, adding new features, testing them, then deploying them. There's also code reviews. By use of version control, we are able to review our codes. If we are working as a team and you're not, maybe let's say you are starting out, or you have someone else who is maybe the team lead, so they have to review the code before they merge the changes. So by use of version control, we are able to perform code reviews in such a manner that when you push your changes, I am able to review and say, yeah, whatever you've done is what we were doing. I'm able to merge your code to the main branch or to a different branch. We'll see more into that as we continue. So we also covered that there are different types of version control. We have the centralized, this is just a recap. We have centralized version control systems. We have distributed version control systems, local version control systems, cloud-based version control systems, and many more. So this version control, different types of version control. For instance, the local version controls, this is your local repository on your system. So it lacks the collaborative feature because it's on your machine. The centralized one is the one to which everyone is able to commit their changes. And the distributed one is the one where every developer has the copy of the repository on their machine, and they're able to continuously push to the cloud-based one. So we will see more into that practically as we continue. So centralized version control systems, basically there's a central server that stores the complete history of the code base. So developers check out files from this central repository, work on them locally, and then commit the changes back to the central server. So how this works basically is we have one place where the code is. So for instance, John or person X takes the whole repository, works on something, and then pushes it back to the central server. Then another person comes back, takes the whole code of the whole repository, works on it, and then pushes it back. Don't worry about the terms. We are going to delve more deeper into them as we continue. And then this distributed one is the one that we are going to be using mostly, whereby if I've already created the repository and I've told you to all clone that repository, so you all have a complete copy of the entire repository, including the history. So you can work independently. Every person can work on the same code at different times on different things. Then we commit all the changes, and we can see this person worked on feature A, we add it. This other person also worked on feature A. So we decide you all worked on the same thing, so maybe we add this one because it's much more advanced or not. So that is how this distributed version control system works. We also have the local version control. Like I said earlier, this is what is in your machine locally. So you're the one who does the changes. You can switch between branches on your own machine. Say I'm working on branch A here, and I go back to branch B. So branch B is a bit back. It has maybe the original code up to where I had reached, and so forth. Then we have the cloud version control systems. This is where our focus is going to be slightly today. So these systems leverage cloud infrastructure. A minute. So these systems leverage cloud infrastructure to store repositories and manage version control operations. So this is like what we're going to be using: GitHub, we have GitLab, we have Bitbucket, Azure DevOps, the repos, and there are many more, Beanstalk, and various, depending on the different organizations. Some of them prefer one to the other, but GitHub is the most common one, which we are going to be using, and we're going to go into much more detail about. Before we go to Git, we had requested that you create GitHub accounts so that we are able to proceed from there together. So before we go deeper into Git, I hope you're able to follow up to there. So we have said that GitHub is a cloud-based version control system. It's whereby we host our repositories, and it also offers additional features like we can track issues, pull requests. It has additional collaboration tools, that continuous integration, project management, and so many more. So if someone doesn't have a GitHub account or hasn't created yet, the process is simple. You just go to github.com. Just go to github.com. Now from github.com, at the corner here, we have signing and sign up. So here is where you are going to, here at the corner here, we have sign in and sign up. So here is where you are going to sign up to be able to join GitHub. So when you click on sign up, it's going to ask for your email and password. You can input your email. I already have a different account, but we can create another one. You can also input a password and also a username. And also a username. So something like, let's create a random username. So here you can create your own username, and then your GitHub account will be created. It will send to you an email to verify your account. Visual puzzle. Now the code has been sent to your email. I input the code that had been sent to my email, and now I have a new GitHub account and I'm able to log in. So when you typically log into your GitHub account, this is what you're going to be seeing. And there are many things which over time you're going to familiarize yourself with and work with them. Okay, so basically this is how it will look like on your end. It has very many different things that over time you are going to be working with. So you will get to know them more, but we will just get to know the basics. So at the end here, there are these few buttons, and these few buttons are some of what you're going to be working with mainly. So you'll be able to create a new repository, import a repository, and all of this. But it is important to know about creating your new repository. So we have created a new repository. here is where you put your repository name. So a repository is your project folder. Now this is where you're going to put your project files, your Python files, different coding programs you're going to be working with. So you can come up with whatever name you decide for your repository name, the name of your project. So for instance, let's say it's Solutioners. That can become our repository name. So it will be the name of our project. We'll also see something about public or private. So if your repository is public, anyone on the internet will be able to access it. If it's private, it's only you who will be able to see it. So depending on the sensitivity of your project, you're the one who will decide whether your project will be public or private. For our demonstration purposes, we're going to put it to public. You can also add a README file. We will learn more about them. There's gitignore files. We'll learn more about that. And the licenses, we'll learn more about that as we delve deeper into Git and GitHub. So our version controls and all of that. So here is where you now click and you create a repository. So now you'll just see it has a lot of instructions. But if we go to our account, you will see we now have one new repository. Here you'll see we have one new repository. So that is the process of creating a repository. You can click from there, create a new repository. You can do it from this side, whereby you go to home, then it takes you back to here. So this is just the process of creating a repository. So here is where from home where you'll be creating it. You will see your repositories and you can create a new one from here. So that is the simple process of creating a repository. You can try, but we'll do that once we get into Git so that we can try now the version control part. To access all your repositories, you will be able to click on the profile icon at the far right. You can also put your profile picture. So here you get your profile, your repositories, Copilot, and all of that. But this is what you'll be using mostly, your profile and your repositories. So your profile is where you'll maybe add your photo for identification when you're working with Teams. If it's a must, you can add other things. And then you can also access your repositories. Now these are your project folders, your repositories. You can access them from here. It will list for you all the repositories that you have. They will always be listed here. If you have multiple of them, they will be listed here. And you can also search for, if you have many, you can search for a specific repository. You can sort them according to languages. So if you are working with different languages, you can sort your repositories according to languages. You can also sort if according to public, private, archived, and many more. So these are just the basics of GitHub. It has a lot which you can dive into as we continue. These are just the basics. As you can see in the repositories, we have issues, pull requests, GitHub actions. This is where you do the continuous integration, continuous deployment, some project management. This is where you get depend bots, where it gives security alerts if there are vulnerabilities in your code. You have insights and settings. So it has a lot, but we cannot go into all of them when we are just starting out. So it's good if you just understand the initial part, how to create a new repository. You just go to that corner, create a new repository, and then naming and either setting it public or private, depending on whatever project you will be working on. That is just the basic gist of working with GitHub. Now, as we go to Git, before we move on to the practical part, as we go on to Git. So what is Git? As we've seen, there are different types of version control systems, and Git is a Git is
You have an incoming call request.
okay, and Git is a tool that helps, is a distributed version control system that helps us to track these file changes and manage the different versions of a project, and it enables collaboration. So Git, this Git also allows multiple developers to work independently and later merge their changes seamlessly. So this Git is a tool that you all need to have on your machines. It will enable for you to work with GitHub, work with teams and multiple people at the same time, to be able to make the changes on your files, push them, pull them. So you need this Git to be able to do so. And I had when I was explaining about GitHub, I had said a repository is like a folder, a directory that contains your project history. There are other terms that we will also come across when working with Git. These other terms will be something like commit. We also have branch. I'll just list them. We'll explain more them in more details. And merge. These are some of the common terms you'll hear us saying: push and pull. Yeah, so these are some of the terms that will be common, that we will be using more and more as we work with Git. So the reason people use Git is that Git has a large user community. Basically, anyone who works with code anywhere in the world uses Git, basically almost everyone. So it is popular among open source projects. It's an open source project. It was developed by the founder of Linux, Linus Torvalds, also the one who developed Git. It's a distributed control system, so you get to work on your own copy and push it back to a central repository. It also allows features such as branches, and much more. It is very fast and it's also lightweight, so it won't consume a lot of space on your machine, and it also doesn't make your machine to lag or to hang. So it is also, it has speed and efficiency. It also has a staging area. We'll look into that shortly. So basically, a staging area is the area between whatever you are working on and maybe your cloud repository. Yeah, that is the staging area where the changes you've made, you've added them there before committing them. So this staging area will allow you to stage the changes before committing them. We'll see that shortly. There's no problem. And it also supports large projects. You can work on large projects with as many contributors as possible with different branches. By use of Git, you can work on it with many people. And now we've said two different terms, Git and GitHub. And it is important to be able to differentiate these two terms, Git and GitHub. So Git is a distributed version control that allows developers to manage and track changes to their code base locally on their computers. It also tracks changes to files. It facilitates collaboration among developers, manages branches, don't worry about that, for parallel development, and enables merging, don't worry about that, we'll get into that. And now we've seen GitHub, it's a web-based, it's on the internet. With Git, it's on your machine, so you can work on it without access to the internet if you're in a place where you don't have access to the internet. Whereby with GitHub, you need to access to the internet. This is where you'll host your repositories. You will have access to other collaboration features that will make it easier for the teams to work together on projects, and also project management tools and so forth. So basically, these are the difference between Git and GitHub, whereby Git is the version control system itself, hosting service. Git operates locally on your machine. GitHub is cloud-based. And Git itself is open source and free to use, while GitHub, it offers a free and paid plan. So the paid plan has things like Copilot, which has some AI features that you can use. It has some more features compared to the free version, but the free version works well enough. You don't need to pay for it. So now we can move on to the practical part of our lesson. But before that, are there any questions or somewhere I may have left someone behind or lost you guys? Yes? Are we all okay with GitHub and the concept of version control? You can give a thumbs up if it's okay. Thank you. I see a hand. Yes. If you have a question, you can ask. You can unmute and ask. It's okay, no problem. So this Git is the tool that we are going to be downloading for us to be able to proceed further on. You can go to your browser and search git-scm.com, like that, git-scm.com. I'll be pasting the link on the chat. I've pasted the link on the chat, the git-scm.com. So here is where we will be downloading this tool called Git. And here we have a few things you can look at on your own free time. We have this book called ProGit. This is it was written by one of the founders of GitHub and other people. It can help you dive deeper into understanding Git if you want to know more about it. So it's an ebook. You can download it as a PDF or as a EPUB or a MOBI. And I can't remember how many pages it is, but you can download it. It has all details about Git, but that is not our interest today. When you go to git-scm.com, you will see something about download for Windows. That is, if you're using Windows, you can download for Windows. If you are on Mac, you can go to Mac build. If you're on Linux, you will use sudo apt install git, and it will allow you to install Git on your Linux machine. But I believe most of us are on Windows, so you click on download for Windows, and then it takes you to this page whereby it will ask you which version of Git of Windows you want, or which setup your machine is. If you have a 32-bit machine or a 64-bit machine. So here you can, if you already know you can download the version for your machine, or you can check which version your machine is, which bit your machine is. I'll show you to check. So for instance, if you have Windows 11, most Windows 11 is newer laptops have 64-bit. They are trying to move away from 32-bit. So if you have Windows 11 or a new machine, it's definitely 64-bit. For the rest, you can go to your settings. Then you go to your system, and then about your device. And then you will see where it will be telling you if your device is, you see, like this one is saying that this device is a 64-bit operating system. So you can go check it like that, depending on your machine. So if you have a 64-bit, you click on download for the 64-bit, and it will start the download for you. I already downloaded this file. You can see here it is, 64-bit Git. Since I've been using my Git, let me uninstall the existing one so that we install together, because there is a specific setting that you need to set so that it works seamlessly for you. I'll also give you a few minutes to be able to download it on your end before we start the installation process. I hope up to there we are together and I'm not leaving anyone behind. Or if you had downloaded it, it's okay, we can proceed. You can give a thumbs up, then we proceed. If not yet, we can wait for you to be able to download it so that we can proceed.
Bobby.
Yes.
Yeah, I think some people don't have 64-bit OS, so they might use the 32-bit OS. You can show them how to check. They can check from their systems if yours is 32-bit or a 64-bit operating system. Show them how you've come to that command.
Okay.
Like
for me,
yours, let's see, yours is 64. Yes, yours is 64.
Yes.
Yeah. It's system. It's I think right-click on settings and then systems, isn't it? Is there a shortcut?
Yes. For the shortcut, I think it's using the run. I can't remember.
Okay.
Using the run.
No, even if they type just sys on search, on that search, it should bring system. I'm thinking so.
Yeah,
if you right click, if you right click. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
When you go to your search or your search, then you search for system information. It will take you to this page where you'll be able to see all the information about your machine, and you can check here the system type. It will tell for you if it's a 64x64 based PC. You'll be able to understand that is the 64 variant or 32, depending on what it will be shown on your end.
And for macOS, Linux, some of them, like I think there are some distros of Linux or macOS that come shipped with the JIT. So if you have a Linux distribution or variant, like maybe Debian or any other, then you can check. Give them that that command for checking the version of JIT.
Okay, so if you have Linux, so you can use git -- version to check the version of your Git if it has Git installed. So you'll type type git dash dash version, and it will tell you the version of Git that you have installed on your machine. This is for Mac or Linux. This is what you will see if it comes pre-installed, depending on the variant of Linux that you have. So you just say git dash dash version, and you will see if it is installed. If not, there are different ways to install it. The simplest one is sudo apt install git. This is if you don't have it installed on your Linux or Mac. For Mac, for Linux, mostly first is sudo apt install git, and it will tell you reading package list, building if you don't have it installed, and then it will install it for you on your Linux if you're using Linux. If you're using Mac, I think it's Brew host. When you go to the Git website, you will find for the different parts. Here it is, the downloads for the different variants. So Mac OS, Windows, or Linux. So if it's Mac OS, it's brew install. Yeah, brew install Git. If you don't have it, or you can use sudo port install Git. Either of the two works for Mac OS. And then for Linux, you can use apt-get install or sudo. Also, you can get for the different variants. So if you're using Debian or Ubuntu, you can use this, Fedora, Linux. Depending on the variant that you're using, you can use either of the commands, and it will enable you to get Linux.
We can't hear you, Bobby.
I was waiting for them to
Oh,
download so that we can proceed with the install together. So
okay.
if you're done, you can put a thumbs up so that we proceed. Okay, I see they are putting their thumbs up. So you will click on the file here for Windows. For the rest, when you use the command, it downloads automatically. So for Windows, if you've already downloaded it, you click on that X file that you have downloaded, and it will open for you something similar to this. So you have to accept this information that they're giving you. By default, it will go to the C drive. So you also click on next, install Git on the C drive. For me, I already had it, but I haven't installed, so it will ask me that prompt. So here you can click on everything. Make sure, if you're interested, click on everything to have all of this, or you can remove the one not to have the desktop icon. But for now, we click on everything so that we have everything that we need. The Git bash profile, check daily. That one is not a must, but the rest you can tick on them to have it. Then you proceed on to next. Then here you also click startup menu. Yes, click on next. Use Vim as your default editor. Yes, next. Then here, let Git decide or override. You go with override instead of let Git decide, and then you put main. So that by default, your branch name will be main instead of master, because you're working with GitHub and the different version control systems. Sometimes the conflict having to switch branches from master to main. Sometimes it accepts, sometimes it gives you some challenges. So for it to be easier for everyone, just override the default branch name and set it to main. Then you go to next. Here you just leave everything the way it is, the way it is, the way it is. Check out the way it is, Minty the way it is, fast forward also the way it is. The rest you leave everything the way it is up to the end. That is the only change that you had to make to switch from the master to the main. The rest you leave the way it is for now. And then you give it a few seconds for it to be able to finish the install on your machine. So I hope we are all together up to here. On the end, you can check launch git bash, or you can uncheck all of them and just click finish. Here you can decide. So for me, let me just launch git bash so that we see what git bash looks like. So this is how git bash looks like. If you've reached up to here, you can put a thumbs up.
Show them how it looks like on Windows as well, Bobby.
Yes.
Show the Windows version of how it looks like
Okay.
for those on Windows. For those who prefer using Windows, so they can use the bash or the Windows.
Okay. I want to get into that. So.
Okay.
So that is how the git bash is. You can also use it sometimes, or by default, depending on the version of Windows you have, it can either come with command prompt or PowerShell. That is Windows 11 has PowerShell, and Windows 10 backwards, they have command prompt. So I'm going to open both for now. To confirm that Git has been installed, you will have to type git dash dash version on your terminal, either command prompt or PowerShell, depending on which version it comes. And it will show you git version 2.47.1, that is on Windows. On other, it may show a different version, but on Windows, this is the latest version for Windows, git version 2.47.1. So on either PowerShell or command prompt, it will be able to show you that. Yes, it will be able to show you that. And then now we can proceed setting up our Git. That's why it was important to create your GitHub account, because that is what we are going to be using to set up our Git. So when we are creating our GitHub account, we input a username and we also input email and a password. So whenever we're logging into our GitHub account, we'll be logging in with our email and our password. But our username will be appearing here, the ones that you are sending to the groups, the usernames that you are sending to the groups. So these usernames are important to be able to identify who is making these changes on our project or whatever we are working on. So it is important to set them up to show our identities, so that when we are working with Git, we are able to see who made the changes, what changes they made, and what time. So we are going to set up our Git. We are going to use Git global to set up our Git. We're going to type Git config dash global. Let me minimize the size so that the commands come out the way I want them to come out. User dot name git config dash global user dot name. Then you input this username that you set on your GitHub. So for me, I set mine as Bobby254A. So for you, what you will set it depending on your username. I saw that you send them on the groups. So for instance, for Paul, his username was it's Paul42. That is the name that you will put here in the quotation marks. Someone like Emma, it was AE Emery at 24. So that's how you'll put your username depending on what you set it on GitHub. So mine was Bobby254A. And then you close it with a quotation mark. So this is how you set your Git username. This will always be able to read your username. We'll see how it will be able to read the username, who made the changes at what time, why, and all of that. We'll be able to see that as we proceed. So here is where you put your username. So mine is 254. Yeah, like that, 254A. So this is what you use to set up your username, and then you press enter. Then you want to also set up your email. Git config again dash global user dot email, and then you input your email, the email that you use to set up your Git account. So git config dash global user dot email, and then you input the email that you use to set up your GitHub account. You input that email that you use to set up your account. So for me, I use this email because I already have another account. I created another email for the purpose of demonstration. So you input that image. Git it's config with a single G. Git config dash global user.email. And this will set up your email to be able to be recognized by Git. So like that, we have set up our email to be able to be recognized by Git. To confirm that the above has worked, we say git config dash list, and it will list for us something like this. But the important part will be this. For you, it may not be this long because you have not used Git before. But if you have used it before, you will find it with a lot of information. But what we are looking for is this part. User.name, then it shows you your username. And user.email, then it shows you the user email that you had used. I hope up to there we are together. So that is how you are able to set up. This is the one-time process. Once you do it, you won't have to work with those commands again, unless you uninstall Git or you change to a different machine where you have to set it up again. But if you have set it up today and you continue working with Git, you won't have to repeat the process again unless you're on a different machine or something else like that. But for now, that is how you set up and configure your credentials to Git. Up to there, I hope we are together.
Bobby,
Yes.
maybe you can help Melissa. She's using a Mac to set up.
Okay. I see. So I'm seeing a few comments on the chat. Let's start with how is it supposed to look on Mac. On Mac, it's supposed to look the same as Bash, if I can remember. You just say git dash version. It's supposed to look something similar to this, a black terminal. Is that what you're seeing, Melissa? So on your terminal, you type git space dash version. Then you tell me what it's showing on your end.
Melissa, have you typed? We want to know the version you're running so that you have the latest version. Bobby, the latest is it 2.4?
Yeah, it's 2.47.
Okay.
But on Linux and I think Mac, it will be different. It uses a different Git version.
Yeah, but they can update it as well if it's older.
Yeah.
Okay. The one for Melissa is one we want to know. Melissa, please, can you show us so that we are par?
For Linux, it's 2.43.
Okay. All right. Have you succeeded, Benjamin? Has she written?
Probably she can share her screen. I think it will be faster if you just guide her through seeing what she's doing.
Okay.
Yeah. If you know how to share, Melissa, please share your screen so that we can assist you. Quickly, please.
Continues to share. I see someone say I got lost when trying to do the git dash underscore version. For that one, it's not underscore. It's git space then dash version. I'll share with you a cheat sheet that will contain some of these commands. This one doesn't show the one to check for version, but I'll share with you the following. So if you have not yet set up yours, these are the commands that we were using up to set up. So where it's written name in quotation marks, that's where you put your username, and you don't use the brackets, you just put the question mark, then your username, like the way we did. We can do it again so that it's visible. So the first command was git config global. The first command was git dash version to confirm which version you are on. Then git git config. Then you input your name, and then you repeat the same for email. And then you confirm with git config dash list, like that. So these are the commands that we have used so far up to here. So in case anyone has not yet succeeded, to try and do it before we tackle the ones who have any issues. So it's git dash version. To confirm the version, it will give you something like this. If this is a different version, for now, we will show you how to update it as we continue. As long as it's able to give you a version, that means you have Git installed. Then you configure your username and your email. Up to there, I hope we are okay. Then to confirm that you have input username and email is when you use this. So you don't use this until you've done the first two parts, the one for username and the one for email. Okay. For Ivy, she has said she has gotten it. For Tracy, if it's okay, you can also share your screen. Okay. This is Tracy. So type git space
Pardon?
git then space dash version and enter.
Make your screen big, Bobby.
It's Tracy who's sharing the screen.
Okay, okay.
Then control plus to increase the size of the screen. Okay. Okay, so it has shown you the version. Now then git config. space dash global space again user no you write the name user dot name first, then space, then you open the quotation marks, then write now your username, the one you are typing, then enter, then now git config, you have put double T on the name git, use the arrow keys to go back, or just config space dash global, then space again user dot email, then space quotation marks, and you input your email there. Then closing, then enter. Then git config, dash list, space dash list, then enter. And you can see at the end there, it has your username and your user email. You can confirm if it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So for the rest, I hope we are all okay. Melissa had said it's actually overworking, and I'm using macOS 12.
Melissa, let me give you the, please type, I'm writing on the text, type git dash version. We just want to see your version. Okay, I've written to her, please type git dash version. So proceed on. I think if you incur any problems, please get back to us, Melissa. You can just type, then we will be able to assist. Okay, proceed on, Bobby.
So far up to there, we are all up to par with the installation of Git. We are going to dive much more deeper into it shortly before we close. But I remember I'd opened a tab for some tech job. And as I was saying, it is important to understand this Git, because apart from writing code, you need to be able to collaborate with the teams. So this Git and GitHub and the version control will help us with this collaboration with the different teams when we're working on different projects. So now is when we want to get into the meat of Git and version control. And before that, if you are present in Sunday's class, Peter was able to touch on some of the basic command line commands. And when working with these version controls or with coding, you will be interacting with the command line here and there. So it is advisable to be able to get down a few or get to know a few of these command line commands so that you're able to figure your way around when working with version control. So I'm going to close this. I open a new one here. Okay, let's also close this. We open a new one. So I'm opening a PowerShell first so that I can explain these commands. Depending on the version of Windows you are on, you will meet this command line using different names, or the operating system you're on. This command
Can you
line
make
will
your
have.
screen a little broader?
Okay. Okay. I hope that is visible. So this command line will have different names, and when you get into it more, there are also some new commands that are different. You will have to know the different names of the command lines. But there are those commands that are basic that you need to get down, that you're going to be using every now and then. And before we proceed even to Git, it's better if you understand these commands first, so that you're able to now go to the Git commands. So these commands that you're going to be using a lot are the following. We are going to work on each of them. The first one is make directory. This is for, I'll use layman terms, create new folder. So if you are creating a new folder, you'll be using mkdir, which stands for make directory. The second one is cd, which means change directory. You'll be also working with this one a lot, cd, change directory. There's also cd and 2 dots. This one is going back to the previous folder. We'll look at examples of each of them. So this one is going back one step before or to the previous. So there's that one. Another one that we are going to be using is dir. This will be listing the folders or directories. So when we are here, we will be calling our folders directories, or whatever you're working on, we'll be calling them directories. So this will be listing what is in the folders or the content of the folders. So listing, let's just say folders or directories, listing directories. So when you're using dir, it will be listing your directories. What other command? There are many, so I'm trying to use the most common ones that you're going to be using.
Add CLS.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah. We have CLS or clear. This is to remove what is on your command line. Let's say it has become crowded or here, so you want to have a clean one so that you can write new codes. So you'll be using the CLS or clear one. This is to clear your command line.
Yeah.
So you'll be using it.
For Melissa, I think it's clear because of our operating system.
Okay. So there are this, and there are many more. You will get into them as you continue. So when you type help on your command line, it will give you all these commands and how to use them. This is for, let's use command line, command prompt. So I type help and then I zoom. So it will give you all the various types of commands. So when you use any of these commands, you can, when you type help, you can see I've typed help. It gives me the different types of command, and it gives a small explanation of what the command does. For example, cd, as we've said, it displays the name or changes the current directory. We have CLS, which clears the screen. We have dir, which displays a list of files and subdirectories in a directory. We also have mkdir. This one creates a new directory. You can also use md, but this is the most common one. So when you type in help, it gives you a list of the commands. So in case there's a command that you wanted to use and you can't remember the name, you can type it and it will give you the list, and you can check the names. You can use even del to delete files, copy. There's also rm, remove directory. There are many depending on what you want to do, what task you want to accomplish. So you will get into them, but these are some of the most common ones that you're going to be using every now and then. Also, when working with Git, the same way, if I say, git dash help. Okay, wait. Yeah, git help, not dash help, git help. So this gives me all the commands for Git. But now with Git, it's the same commands for some of them, but the only difference is I have to put the name Git in front of this command. So if I am cloning, it's git clone, it's not clone alone. It's not just typing the word clone alone, it's git clone. If I want to initialize or an empty repo, it's git init. So the git commands, I'll be using git before. If I want to add my files, it's git add. If I want to differentiate, git diff. If I want to merge, git merge. If I want to commit, like so forth and on. That is how it is when working with Git. So we want to see these basic commands that before we go to the Git ones, these ones that we did on Sunday for those who are not there. So let's show desktop icons. So these are the icons that I have on my desktop. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. I have 4 icons on my desktop. Okay, so before we go into that, I've remembered something. When you open your command line, you'll be seeing something like this. This is what will be showing which position or where currently in your list of directories you are in. So for me, I'm in my home directory of my PC. If I say dir, it shows the different, and I zoom, it doesn't show them clearly. So when I say dir, it shows the different folders on my machine. For now, it won't show clearly. Let me use it here. If I say dir, it shows the different folders and files on my machine. So for instance, I can see I have contacts, desktop, documents, downloads, and all of that. So we have said to change, we use cd. Now I want to go to my desktop. I say cd, then I type desktop. And this takes me to my desktop. You can see it has changed from the way it was up here. Let me go back before so that we can see the difference. So you see, it usually writes home PC. If I want to go to my desktop, I type cd desktop. And now you can see the difference between this and this. You can see a clear difference between this and this. This shows that in my home PC on my desktop. And we say that on my desktop we had how many files? We saw on my desktop we had 1, 2, 3, 4 folders and a few other files. So if I say dir on my desktop, we'll see the folders that I have. 1, 2, 3, 4. The folders that I had, the 4 folders that I had on my desktop will be showing up here. If I want to go to the previous outside the desktop, we say it's cd space and two periods or dots or full stops, and it takes us back. So that is this second command that takes us one step back. Then this one changes. This one, you can say, takes us one step forward, opens a folder, or changes the position we are in. Then this one takes us back. So we have seen that. So we go to desktop. Now we want to create a new folder on our desktop. We say make directory. Now we want to create a new folder. Let's call it test. Make directory test. Now we have created a new folder on our desktop called test. Initially, we had 4 folders on our desktop. If we say dir, it will tell us we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have now 5 folders on our desktop. By the use of this make directory command, we're able to create a new folder on our desktop. Now let's go to our desktop to see if it's true we have created a new directory or not. So we can see we initially had 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we have a new folder called test, the one that we have created using the command line. You can see I've created a new folder called test. At the moment, the folder is empty. Even if I open it, you can see the folder is empty. This folder is empty. It has nothing inside it. So if I say dir, if I change to this folder, I say cd test, and now I'm inside the test folder. If I say dir, you see it has nothing to list because the folder is empty. So these are some of the commands you're going to be using, as we have said. Make directory, change directory, to list the directories, and now to clear. Now you can see my terminal is full. I want it to be clear so that we can do something. I can either type CLS, and now it clears everything. There's nothing on my terminal anymore. If we do everything that we have done, we make it full again. We make it full again, and now we want to clear. You can also type clear, but CLS works, so it clears your command line. So those are the basic commands that we're going to be using a lot. There are many more. Like we've seen when we type help, there are many more. You will get into more, understand what they do, and work with them as we continue. But for now, we just want to get with the basics. So these are the basics. I'll share a screenshot of them, or you'll practice with them as we continue. Now we want to go into Git. With Git, I had shown you on GitHub how to create a repository. I hope you can remember how we did that. And I want, if it is possible, all of us to create a repository on our Git account. I said when you open your Git account, you go to the corner up here. You'll see the create new repository icon, the plus. So when it is a plus and a drop down. So when you click on the plus or the drop down, it gives you the option. So we say new repository. We give our repository a name. We call it test repo, like that. Also be careful when naming your repositories, because if I put this space on my repository, that means when I clone it to my local machine, this space will appear as a dash. You can see your new repository will be created as test repo. So when you're putting a space, you have to remember that. So to avoid the complications, let me remove the space. Let's just call it test repo as one word. Then you can put it public or private. The rest we skip for now, because we said we'll get into them later. We create a repository. We have now created a repository called test repo on our machine. When we created the repository, we can have a look at it from here. So we have solutioners, the first repo we created as an example, and now test repo, the second repository that we have created. So we open that repository that we have created called test repo. And you see it has a lot of things going on with it at the moment. It has some basic commands to use. We'll get into them shortly. But what we are interested with at the moment is this one. The one that says quick setup if you've done this kind of a thing before. That is what we want to work with, because that is what we will be working with a lot. So in the quick setup, you see there's HTTPS or SSH. We are interested in SSH. In the HTTPS, at the end here, we have the copy, the button to copy. So this is the button that we'll be using to copy. So we want to copy this link. You can either select it and Control C, or at the end here you have some squares, some buttons. You click on them to copy, and then you go to your terminal. Let's clear it as we had seen. Now here, I'd said when working with Git, we have the commands that come with Git. And before each command, we say Git before it. So for now, we want to clone a repository, right? So if you want to clone a repository, we use git clone because we want to clone a repository. So we say git clone. This is the first command that you're going to be using every now and then. So it is important to know it. Then we Control V to paste the link to our repository. So the first git command that we're going to be using is git clone. And then we have the repository link. It is followed by the repo link there. So we have typed git clone, then we have pasted our repository link. So git clone, then the repository link, then you click on enter, and you will see the following: cloning test repo. So your Git is cloning test repo on your machine. You'll see something like this warning: you appear to have closed an empty repository. Yeah, that is true. We are cloning an empty repository because we had nothing on our repo. If we go to our GitHub, it was empty, it has nothing. So we were cloning an empty repository. That is what we have done. We have cloned an empty repository. And every time you clone a repository, you have to remember this command that we had before. The key one after cloning is change directory. So that now that we have cloned into test repo. If we go to our desktop, we will see this folder that appears. It is called test repo. But now we need to change into it because we have cloned it. Now we need to open this test repo by saying cd test repo. It's one word, test repo. The name here, the name that appears here at cloning. So cloning into test repo. So this is the name that will be changing directly to this name. So cd test repo. And then you can see now we are inside the test repo. Another command that I had not said here that we'll be using a lot is code space period. This will open your IDE. In our case, it's VS Code. So this code space period will open our IDE. So whenever we type this, it will open our VS Code, our IDE. So now that we have opened that test repo, even if we list to see if it has anything inside, it's still empty because it's an empty repo. So now we have changed into it. We want to open it on VS Code. So we are going to say code space period, and this will open up our IDE. As you can see, it has opened up our IDE. By default, yours is not the same like this. Let me make sure we have the same. refuse because I have some settings, but this is how it is. It's an empty repo that we have. We want to create any file, any random file on our repository. So we can create an index.html, and then we put in the boilerplate code by using the exclamation mark and pressing enter. And now we have the boilerplate code. Before that, I want you to see the difference that we have. I don't know if I've zoomed enough that you can see. You can see on my end, the index.html that I've created is there, but now there is a U appearing at the end. Even up here, you can see the U. So when I even hover on it, you can see the U stands for untracked. I hope you can see that. The U stands for untracked. So it means that this new file that I've added is a change that has not been added to the staging area. So it's an untracked change. When I don't know if you had installed the extensions for Git on your VS Code. Benjamin,
Yes.
you had installed the Git extensions.
No, we didn't get to it. So maybe you
Okay,
can
okay.
install it. So I didn't want to install a lot of extensions that they will not use. So we'll as we get into new concepts, we'll be installing them one by one.
Okay, thank you. Since you cannot see this untracked, that means that the Git, your Git on your machine is not linked to the Git on your VS Code to be able to track the changes, the way to do the version control that we want to be doing using this Git. So you'll need some extensions that will help you with this. So let's install these extensions. On your VS Code, this is probably on the left, but it's all the same. So there's this button that has some squares. It's a big square with 4 different squares, 3 of them aligned, and one of them is out. This one, this is what we want. This button, you click on it, and it takes you to the extension page. When it takes you to the extension page, ignore everything else that you have, and on the search extension tab, you type git extension pack, like that. Git extension pack. Let me copy that and paste it on the chat. So this, you type git extension pack. I've sent it the way it's supposed to be typed, and you'll open the first thing that appears, git extension pack. This that appears, you'll see it by Don. That second name is hard to pronounce, but you'll see it's by Don Jayamain or something like that. Yes, I see someone has raised a hand. Yes.
Jeremy, you've raised your hand.
Yeah. Oh, I was talking and I had not unmuted. Sorry for that. I was saying maybe I'm speaking. Maybe I'm also speaking on behalf of some people. Am I clear enough?
Yeah, you
Yes.
I was saying the way you are going some of our machines are not as fast as yours. And so sometimes you are telling us to do something, it's still loading, you're already ahead of us. I don't know if it's me alone or there's some people here who are suffering inside and they're not speaking out. Yeah, but sometimes your machine is faster than ours. So when you're rushing, just know you're leaving some of us behind and we need to write some things down until. So when you go ahead of us, we begin now doing it. Thank you.
It's okay. Where have I left you so that we can pick up from there?
I was still opening the V what?
VS Code.
Yeah, the VS Code. I was still opening the VS Code, and I had already seen you are installing the extension. So, but it's okay.
Okay.
We are trying to follow you up.
You have managed to open the VS Code.
Yeah, I've already opened it.
Okay, so we are here at the VS Code.
Yes.
So let me go back over that. When you open the VS Code, let me close this side panel. I'll have to minimize so that I can explain VS Code a bit. So when you open the VS Code, you will see a lot of things. Viewers may come with even a welcome message that tells you to about VS Code, but we're not into that. So the first thing about VS Code is up here. Up here, it writes for you the name of whatever you have opened. If it's the test repo, if it's a different project, that is what it writes for you up there. And then there are different terminals, different things, different panels that come with this VS Code. And depending on how you've configured yours, mine has some settings that I had put on, such that my primary sidebar is on the right as compared to yours that is on the left. So that should not confuse you. I've also put some other things, but those should not confuse you. It's all the same. So this is what we call our primary sidebar. It's what appears on VS Code when you open it. It has a lot of things, but we will get into that when we explore VS Code in detail. What we are interested in for today or for now is to be able to add the Git extensions on our VS Code so that we are able to collaborate or make the changes on our local repositories, and these changes to be able to reflect on our GitHub or other cloud repository that we are working with. And for that to be able to work, we need some extensions on our VS Code. And it is not easy to do that without the extensions. So on your VS Code, on this left side, you'll see a few icons like this. So the one that we're interested in at the moment is this one for extensions. The extensions icon, it is shaped like this. It's like a big square with 4 different squares, and one of them is outside. I don't know if it's visible. If I try to expand it further, it disappears. So this is the max I can expand it for now, so that you'll be able to see it. This is how it looks. That icon, this is how it looks. I hope you all can see it. Now you click on that icon, and you will see these installed extensions appearing there. For now, we ignore them. We will come back to them as we proceed. Up to there, I hope we are together. Now, here, I want you to search Git. You type it like that, Git extension pack. You type it like that, Git extension pack. I'd pasted this, whatever you are searching, on the chat box on the Google Meet. You can check it there. So this is what we are typing, Git extension pack. Let me put it somewhere it's also visible so that we can see what we are typing is Don't do this. This is just to show whatever I'm typing there so that we're together. This is what I have typed. I've typed Git extension pack there. So this is what you are searching, Git extension pack. So this is what you're searching when you're searching for the extension, the Git extension pack. Then you click on the first one. This one that has 2.5 million downloads, the one by Don. You can pronounce the other name, this one. This is the one that you click on. When you click on it, it tells you Git extension pack. So this is, I do not want to open it here. This is what it tells you, Git extension pack. I don't want to open it up here. So this is what it tells you. Git extension pack tells the number of downloads and all of that. You click, if this is click, leave it like that. So what this Git extension pack does, it comes with all the relevant Git extensions that you may need. I'll have to minimize again to show you the different types of Git extensions. So it comes with Git history or Git log. It comes with project manager. It comes also Git ignore and the credential manager to connect your VS Code to GitHub, Bitbucket, or other version control systems. These are why it is called a Git extension pack. It includes it includes all these different extensions. It does not come alone as in just one extension. So that's why it's called Git extension pack. You install this. When you install this one, it will install for you all these other extensions I was explaining. They have different functions. We will look into them individually as we continue. So we have Git history, project manager, Git lens, Git ignore, and this one is the credential manager to link the Git to your cloud repository company, whether it's GitHub, Bitbucket, or the others, with your VS Code so that you can be able to work with it directly. So these are the extensions that you will come with. So for now, you click up here on install. First, to be able to proceed, you click up here on install. So you install it. It will install the extension for you. All these other extensions in the pack, when you do it like that, it will install all of them for you. So you can see it has already installed all the extension packs, all the different extensions on the extension pack have already been installed. I hope up to there we are together. I've not left anyone behind. Okay, you've managed to install, so that we proceed. Okay. If you've managed to install, I think on your machines, it will open up a new tab. Or we'll get into that. We'll get into that. I can see time is also running up. And I don't want us to overextend our time today. We will catch up from where we have reached, so that you're able to see these different things appear on your own VS Code, because there are different ones that we will go into. You can see now they have changed to A. This means now that these files have been added to our staging area. Now when this is just an example, we'll go into them later. Now we'll go into them into detail on our next class. I just want to show you that with the extensions, you'll be able to see. Now you see now it is M, it is modified. So we have U, A, M. Yeah, we have those three. U is an tracked file. It has not been added to our staging area. A, the files have been added to our staging area. And M, the files have been modified. We look into that, and now through the extensions, you will see some comments like this on your VS Code. Tell you if there are uncommitted changes, if there are who made these changes. You'll be able to see it by use of this VS Code. You can see here it said that 36 seconds ago these changes were made by person X. You'll be able to see all of that as we continue. You'll also be able to see how Git lengths work. That is that part of the extensions. For now, we cannot go into details, but this is what we'll be using to track our changes. This Git length, it will be giving you the graph with all the changes that you've made. You'll be able to see who has made the changes and all of that. Right now, you can see the changes have been made. You will see that. You'll be able to go into the commands to see who made the changes. So that this will be on our next class. You'll see why you are putting our username and email. So you can see the author of this commit was this person. So in case this author made some mistakes, we'll be able to tell him to see who made the mistakes, who made the changes. So there's all of that we'll be able to go into. I don't want to lose you. Up to now, for today, we say we have just installed the Git extension pack and covered the command line and the basic concepts of Git. We'll go into much deeper on our next class. I hope up to there we are together and I have not left anyone behind. And in case of any question or you are stuck anywhere while we were setting it up, you can say, and we can remain behind and troubleshoot it with you. If you're okay up to there, Benjamin or Mr. Peter can take it over from there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bobby, for taking them over Git. I know this is not exhaustive. There's still a lot to cover. This is just the beginning.